Welcome back. This Jefferson nickel may look like ordinary pocket change, but some hidden versions have stunned collectors with unbelievable auction prices. Before you spend another nickel, take a closer look, because one tiny detail could turn a forgotten coin into a discovery people dream about for years. First coin. The U.S. Jefferson nickel from 1941 arrived at a moment when America was standing on the edge of global change, and that tension somehow became frozen into a small piece of metal that most people would overlook in a drawer or pocket jar today. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin carried the sharp image of President Jefferson on the front, while Monticello stood proudly on the reverse. But collectors often say the real story is hidden in the tiny details that only appear under careful light. Some 1941 nickels were struck with unusually crisp steps on Monticello, creating a visual depth that separates ordinary examples from coins that can stop seasoned collectors in their tracks. During that era, the minting process still relied heavily on mechanical precision that could drift slightly from one production run to another, meaning no two surviving examples age in exactly the same way. A worn 1941 nickel may appear grey and lifeless, but a sharply preserved one can reveal a silky glow, pale silver tones, and mirrored surfaces that almost feel impossible for a coin more than 80 years old. What makes the mystery even stronger is that many of these nickels quietly passed through decades of commerce without anyone realizing they carried characteristics that modern collectors now chase aggressively at auctions and estate sales. By 1941, the United States Mint was producing coins under growing pressure as wartime preparation intensified, and subtle differences between facilities created fascinating varieties that collectors still debate today. Philadelphia struck coins without a mint mark, while Denver and San Francisco produced versions carrying small d and s letters that can dramatically affect collector interest depending on strike quality and preservation. Some Denver examples emerged with stronger rims and unusually bold lettering, while certain San Francisco pieces displayed softer details caused by die fatigue late in production cycles. These variations may sound minor to casual viewers, but in the coin world, tiny changes can transform an ordinary nickel into something with remarkable historical appeal. Collectors sometimes compare the hunt for an exceptional 1941 Jefferson nickel to discovering an old photograph that suddenly reveals a forgotten family story hidden in plain sight. The weight, texture, and color of the coin all become clues, especially since wartime composition changes were approaching only a year later. Many people unknowingly confuse altered nickels or damaged examples with valuable varieties, which is why experts constantly remind collectors to examine surfaces carefully instead of relying on internet rumors or exaggerated claims. One of the most talked about aspects of the 1941 Jefferson nickel involves strike quality and the famous full steps designation, a detail that can elevate collector demand dramatically when the horizontal steps beneath Monticello remain fully visible and uninterrupted. Achieving that level of sharpness was difficult because dies wore down quickly, causing many coins to lose definition before entering circulation. A surviving nickel with clearly defined steps, strong edge separation, and minimal contact marks can feel almost unreal when viewed under magnification. Some collectors describe the excitement of finding one in an inherited collection as similar to uncovering a hidden savings account nobody knew existed. Then there are the mysterious era coins, including doubled lettering, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, rotated dies, and unusual rim formations that create visual oddities impossible to duplicate naturally. A subtle doubling in the date or inscriptions may appear harmless at first glance, but specialists know these imperfections can significantly increase collector fascination when verified professionally. Because counterfeit modifications also exist, authentication becomes critical, especially for coins that appear too unusual or too perfect to be true. The color of a 1941 Jefferson nickel can also reveal surprising information about its life and potential desirability. Most examples display a standard nickel gray appearance, yet some develop deep champagne tones, icy luster, or faint golden hues after decades of careful storage. Others darken unevenly because of environmental exposure, creating patterns collectors sometimes call album tunning or cabinet tunning. While discoloration alone does not guarantee value, visually attractive tunning can make certain coins stand out dramatically in competitive auctions. Experts often recommend checking the coin under soft white light rather than harsh phone flash because reflective glare can hide scratches, cleaning damage, or altered surfaces. The rim shape matters too. A full, rounded rim with balanced alignment can indicate a stronger strike and better preservation, while flattened or uneven rims may suggest heavy wear or production inconsistencies. Some collectors even measure weight differences down to tiny fractions of a gram because abnormal weight could signal mint errors, altered planchets, or post-mint damage. These examinations may sound technical, but they become essential once collectors realize that a seemingly average nickel could carry hidden traits, separating it from millions of ordinary survivors. In lower circulated grades, a 1941 Jefferson nickel might only attract modest collector attention, yet specific variations and stronger examples have been known to create astonishing reactions in the market. A coin with appealing surfaces, partial full steps details, or subtle mint irregularities might realistically attract offers ranging from about $2,500 to $7,500 depending on condition, eye appeal, and collector demand. More notable examples featuring stronger strikes, cleaner surfaces, or authenticated doubling have sometimes reached discussions near $9,000 among advanced buyers seeking standout pieces for registry collections. The emotional pull behind these numbers is powerful because many people imagine the possibility of turning a forgotten coin into something equivalent to a major financial boost or a sudden unexpected opportunity. Still, professional grading remains essential because surface alterations, cleaning, or hidden defects can dramatically reduce interest from serious collectors. Stories circulate constantly about families discovering old jars of coins in attics, only to realize one nickel stood apart because of a tiny visual detail everyone ignored for decades. As the condition climbs higher, the atmosphere surrounding the 1941 Jefferson nickel changes completely. Coins preserved with sharp luster, minimal abrasions, and strong full steps characteristics can enter a category where advanced collectors compete aggressively, sometimes pushing illustrative market discussions toward $10,000 or even $12,000 for especially attractive certified examples. Rare collector pieces connected to unusual die states, exceptional tunning, or uncommon preservation histories have occasionally inspired conversations around $15,000 when demand intensifies. What fascinates people most is the idea that these coins were once treated as ordinary spending money, casually exchanged for coffee, newspapers, or train fare during one of the most turbulent periods in American history. Holding such a coin today can feel strangely personal, almost like touching a surviving witness from another era. Every small mark on the surface tells part of that journey, from busy cash registers to forgotten drawers, and eventually into the hands of collectors determined to preserve a tiny piece of history before it disappears forever. The truly dramatic stories emerge when unusual mint anomalies appear on a 1941 Jefferson nickel, especially those involving striking errors that experts rarely encounter. Off-center strikes with visible dates, dramatic doubled inscriptions, or planchet irregularities can send collector interest into an entirely different category. In rare situations, unusual anomalies tied to verified minting mistakes have fueled discussions reaching approximately $25,000 because advanced collectors value uniqueness almost as much as preservation. Then there are the legendary examples that combine multiple desirable traits at once: exceptional strike sharpness, attractive tunning, pristine surfaces, and historically important provenance. These extraordinary finds can inspire astonishing auction competition, sometimes leading to illustrative figures around $65,000 when collector demand becomes intense. The emotional reactions surrounding discoveries like these is difficult to describe because the idea of finding a life-changing coin in an inherited collection feels almost cinematic. People imagine using such a windfall for a home down payment, debt relief, or a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity they never thought possible, even though outcomes in the real market are never guaranteed and always depend on authentication, timing, and buyer demand. Collectors examining a 1941 Jefferson nickel are usually advised to move slowly and carefully because small details often determine whether a coin is ordinary or remarkable. Start by checking the weight against professional standards, then observe the metal color for unnatural brightness or signs of cleaning. Look closely at strike alignment to see whether Jefferson's portrait and the reverse design appear properly centered. Study the rim shape for unusual flattening, clipped sections, or raised distortions that might indicate mint errors. Under magnification, inspect the lettering around the date and inscriptions for subtle doubling, especially near areas where mechanical shifts sometimes occurred during striking. A coin with clean surfaces and strong detail may deserve professional grading from respected authentication services because experts can identify characteristics invisible to inexperienced eyes. Many collectors regret spending valuable coins unknowingly decades earlier, and that fear keeps the search alive today as people continue opening old containers of spare change with a completely different sense of curiosity than before. Somewhere tonight, another forgotten U.S. Jefferson nickel from 1941 is probably sitting unnoticed inside a dusty box, hidden beneath receipts, old keys, or ordinary pocket change, while its true story remains undiscovered. That possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching through flea markets, estate sales, inherited collections, and family coin jars year after year, hoping to experience the shock of finding something extraordinary where nobody else bothered to look. The next coin may appear worn, darkened, or completely average at first glance, only to reveal a rare strike characteristic or hidden mint anomaly under proper light. And as unbelievable as it sounds, some historically significant examples have sparked market conversations approaching $80,000 when rarity, preservation, and collector demand aligned perfectly. Yet even then, the real thrill often comes from the hunt itself, the moment a tiny detail changes everything and turns an overlooked coin into a story people talk about for decades. And the strangest part is that the next shocking discovery may not involve a nickel at all, because another forgotten American coin with an even more mysterious past could already be waiting quietly in circulation right now. Next coin. The USA 1946 United States Jefferson nickel entered circulation at a strange moment in American history, when the country was emerging from the shadow of World War II and millions of people were trying to rebuild normal life after years of uncertainty. To most Americans at the time, the coin was just another nickel passed across diner counters, dropped into jukeboxes, or carried loosely in uniform pockets by returning soldiers. But decades later, collectors began noticing that certain 1946 examples carried unusual characteristics that made them feel completely different from ordinary pocket change. The first post-war Jefferson nickels represented a transition back to peacetime metal production after the silver wartime nickels of 1942 through 1945. And that shift created a fascinating layer of collector interest because the mint was adapting machinery, restoring old production routines, and dealing with enormous demand all at once. Some surviving pieces from that year display unusually sharp details around Jefferson's hairline and Monticello's architecture, while others reveal strange strike inconsistencies that hint at overused dies and rushed mint operations. A coin that appears flat and dull at first glance can suddenly become captivating under proper lighting, especially when its surfaces reveal hidden luster, subtle color transitions, or faint doubling invisible to the naked eye. Collectors often describe the 1946 Jefferson nickel as deceptive because the true story hides in details most people never think to examine. Philadelphia examples carried no mint mark, while Denver and San Francisco issues displayed tiny identifying letters that could dramatically influence collector attention depending on strike quality and rarity. Some San Francisco nickels from 1946 developed unusually soft reverses, where the steps of Monticello faded almost completely, while a handful of Denver strikes emerged with exceptionally bold details that today stand out immediately in certified collections. The post-war economy also meant that huge numbers of these nickels circulated heavily, so finding one with crisp surfaces and minimal wear now feels like discovering a surviving artifact untouched by time. Certain coins developed natural tunning over decades inside old paper rolls or forgotten bank wrappers, creating icy blue edges, warm champagne centers, or smoky silver patterns that collectors sometimes pay significant premiums to obtain. The emotional pull comes from the realization that these coins traveled through nearly every layer of American life, from train stations and grocery stores to movie theaters and roadside diners, quietly surviving long enough to become objects of fascination generations later. The visual design itself adds another layer of intrigue, because the Jefferson nickel was created to appear refined yet practical, reflecting a country trying to balance tradition with modern identity. The profile of President Jefferson on the obverse can reveal astonishing differences from coin to coin, depending on strike pressure and die condition. On some 1946 examples, Jefferson's cheek and jawline appear almost sculpted with razor-sharp depth, while weaker strikes look blurry and lifeless despite being from the same year. The reverse featuring Monticello becomes even more important among advanced collectors because the famous full steps designation depends on how clearly the staircase lines appear beneath the building. Many 1946 nickels lost these details during production, making sharply struck full steps examples dramatically scarcer than most people realize. Some collectors spend years searching through rolls of nickels, hoping to uncover one overlooked coin with unusually complete detail, and the suspense of that search keeps the series alive in a way few ordinary coins can match. Stories continue circulating about inherited collections where relatives unknowingly spent valuable nickels because nobody recognized the tiny differences separating a common example from a highly collectible one. The mystery deepens when era coins enter the conversation because the 1946 Jefferson nickel produced a surprising range of minting abnormalities that still fascinate specialists today. Certain coins display doubled lettering around the date or inscriptions, while others show misaligned strikes that create off-center designs or uneven rim expansion. A small number developed clipped planchets, die cracks, or rotated reverses, all caused by mechanical disruptions during production. To casual viewers, these flaws might seem like damage, but experienced collectors understand that authentic mint-made errors can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into something extraordinarily desirable. One of the most discussed features involves subtle letter doubling visible only under magnification, especially around the words "In God We Trust" or "Monticlo," where tiny shifts during striking created layered impressions that experts still study carefully. Some collectors compare discovering a genuine doubled variety to finding a hidden message inside a familiar object, because once the doubling becomes visible, the coin suddenly feels completely different from every other nickel nearby. That sense of discovery is what drives many collectors to continue searching through old jars and forgotten coin albums year after year. By the time collectors begin discussing value, the atmosphere surrounding the 1946 Jefferson nickel changes from curiosity to genuine suspense, because the market can react dramatically to condition, rarity, and authentication. Certain attractive examples with strong detail, original luster, and minor but desirable varieties have appeared in private sales or auctions reaching approximately $5,000 to $12,000, depending on eye appeal and collector demand. The idea that a small coin once used for everyday purchases could later sell for the price of a used car creates an emotional shock that draws people deeper into the hobby. Coins with unusual strike sharpness or better-than-average preservation often generate competitive bidding because so many 1946 nickels circulated heavily and lost their original surfaces decades ago. Some collectors remember passing over old rolls of nickels years earlier without realizing what might have been hidden inside, and those missed opportunities still haunt conversations today. The possibility that valuable coins remain undiscovered inside inherited collections or forgotten drawers, continues fueling the excitement surrounding post-war Jefferson Nickels. As the condition improves or genuine mint errors appear, the numbers attached to certain 1946 Jefferson Nickels become even more astonishing. Certified high-grade examples with strong full-steps detail and nearly flawless surfaces have inspired auction discussions approaching $20,000, particularly when collector competition intensifies around registry-quality coins. Rare error examples featuring dramatic off-center strikes, major doubling, or severe die misalignment have occasionally pushed toward $35,000 because collectors value uniqueness as much as preservation. Then there are the extraordinary mint state pieces that appear almost untouched despite surviving for generations, their surfaces glowing with original brilliance and delicate frost. Coins like these have reportedly reached levels near $50,000 when rarity, eye appeal, and historical significance align at exactly the right moment. The emotional stories behind such discoveries often become legendary among collectors because many of these coins were found accidentally in estate boxes, forgotten envelopes, or coin jars that families nearly discarded without inspection. A single overlooked nickel can suddenly transform from spare change into something capable of changing financial plans overnight. The most dramatic stories surrounding the 1946 Jefferson nickel involve unusual mistakes so rare that even experienced collectors may never encounter one in person. Some extreme mint errors display broad strikes, missing design sections, or bizarre planchet defects that make the coin appear almost unreal. When examples like these receive professional authentication and enter the market, collector demand can become intense because there may be only a handful known to exist. Certain extraordinary mistakes tied to major production anomalies have reportedly reached levels around $75,000, especially when their visual appearance is dramatic enough to attract widespread attention. In even rarer cases involving one-of-a-kind combinations of errors, private sales and elite auction records have approached or exceeded $100,000, creating the kind of headlines that make ordinary people rush to check old coin collections late at night. The fascination comes not only from the money itself, but from the idea that these coins survived unnoticed through decades of circulation, storage, and inheritance before finally revealing their significance to someone paying close attention. Careful examination remains essential because the difference between an ordinary 1946 Jefferson nickel and a remarkable one often comes down to details invisible without patience and magnification. Collectors are usually encouraged to check weight carefully to confirm the coin matches proper specifications, while also studying the metal color for signs of cleaning, alteration, or unusual tunning. Strike alignment matters because authentic mint errors often reveal shifted designs or uneven spacing that cannot be duplicated easily outside the mint. Rim expansion can indicate striking pressure abnormalities, and tiny forms of letter doubling may appear strongest near the date or inscriptions under angled lighting. Even experienced collectors avoid rushing to sell unusual finds because improper cleaning or impulsive handling can destroy value immediately. Professional authentication services remain critical for confirming whether a coin truly possesses rare characteristics or simply resembles them. Somewhere at this very moment, another overlooked USA 1946 United States Jefferson nickel may still be hiding in a forgotten collection, carrying the possibility of a discovery so unusual that future collectors could one day discuss it alongside the rarest Jefferson nickels ever found, with whispers of values climbing toward $120,000 for examples unlike anything most people have ever seen. Next up, the 1949 United States Jefferson nickel never looked like the kind of coin people would stop to admire. Yet hidden beneath its ordinary appearance is a story that quietly turned it into one of the more intriguing post-war nickels ever studied by collectors. Struck in Denver during a period when the United States was adjusting to rapid industrial growth and economic change after World War II, the coin passed through millions of hands without attracting attention, often disappearing into cash drawers, vending machines, and coat pockets before eventually vanishing into storage for decades. What makes the 1949 D nickel fascinating today is the strange combination of heavy circulation, inconsistent strike quality, and surprisingly low survival numbers in exceptional condition. Many coins from that year were produced quickly as commerce expanded across the country, and the mint pushed machinery hard to meet demand, creating subtle differences between early and late production runs that collectors now study carefully. Some surviving examples reveal deeply impressed lettering and remarkably sharp details around Jefferson's portrait, while others show weak strikes, flattened rims, or faintly distorted features caused by worn dies nearing the end of their lifespan. At first glance, it appears to be another worn nickel from mid-century America, but under proper magnification, the coin can reveal clues that transform it into something far more mysterious. The Denver Mint, during 1949, carried a unique atmosphere compared to earlier wartime years because production had stabilized, yet equipment fatigue and operational adjustments still influenced the final appearance of many coins. The tiny D mint mark beside Monticello may seem insignificant to casual viewers, but collectors know it identifies a coin struck in one of the busiest Western facilities in the country at the time. Certain 1949 D nickels developed unusually reflective surfaces because of fresh dye usage early in production cycles, while others emerged with dull textures and incomplete architectural details on the reverse. One of the most discussed characteristics involves the steps beneath Monticello, where even slight weakness in strike pressure could erase important design separation. Sharp full steps examples became surprisingly scarce because the dies often wore down before enough coins could be struck cleanly. Collectors today sometimes describe finding a sharply struck 1949 D nickel as similar to uncovering a hidden photograph untouched by time, because the difference between ordinary and exceptional examples becomes immediately obvious once the details come into focus. The emotional connection deepens when people realize these coins survived through decades of economic shifts, family inheritance, and forgotten collections before being rediscovered generations later. Unlike some earlier Jefferson Nickels known mainly for wartime metal compositions, the 1949 D nickel attracts attention because of the strange range of visual appearances collectors encounter when examining original pieces. Some coins display soft gray tones with smooth agging that reflects decades of circulation, while others show icy luster, pale gold tunning, or smoky blue edges developed through long-term storage in paper wrappers or old albums. Certain mint-state examples still carry satiny surfaces that almost glow under angled light, giving the impression that the coin escaped circulation entirely despite its age. Collectors often become obsessed with these subtle visual differences because every mark, color shift, or strike variation tells part of the coin's story. Even Jefferson's facial details can appear dramatically different depending on die freshness and strike force, with some portraits looking sculpted and sharp, while weaker strikes seem almost blurred. These differences may sound small to outsiders, but experienced numismatists understand that tiny variations can separate a common collectible from a coin capable of drawing intense market attention. Stories continue circulating about people unknowingly spending valuable nickels decades ago simply because they failed to notice the details experts now search for relentlessly. As interest in the 1949 D. Jefferson nickel grew over the years, collectors began discovering unusual minting abnormalities that added even more intrigue to the coin's reputation. Some examples feature doubled lettering around the inscriptions or date, while others display rotated dies, clipped planchets, or strange rim distortions caused during striking. A few coins developed die cracks stretching through portions of Jefferson's portrait or across Monticello, creating dramatic visual effects that specialists immediately recognize. Certain pieces reveal off-center strikes subtle enough to escape casual detection but obvious under close inspection, especially when spacing between the rim and lettering becomes uneven. These imperfections are not random damage, but evidence of mechanical problems inside the mint itself, frozen permanently into the coin during production. Collectors often describe the thrill of identifying authentic mint errors as similar to solving a hidden puzzle because the clues are tiny and easy to overlook. Some people have reportedly kept rare varieties inside ordinary change jars for years before realizing they possessed something unusual, and those missed opportunities still fuel the suspense surrounding old Jefferson Nickels today. The value conversation surrounding the 1949 D nickel becomes especially dramatic once condition and authenticity enter the picture, because the market can react strongly to even small differences in preservation. Coins featuring attractive original surfaces, minor strike anomalies, or subtle doubling have appeared in collector transactions ranging from approximately $3,000 to $10,000, depending on rarity and eye appeal. That alone surprises many people because the coin once represented only 5 cents in everyday commerce, yet decades later certain examples became desirable enough to command serious collector interest. The emotional impact grows when stories emerge about relatives selling inherited jars of coins without examination, unknowingly giving away pieces later worth far more than expected. Some buyers actively search estate sales and forgotten collections, hoping to uncover overlooked 1949 D nickels with hidden characteristics, driven by the possibility that an ordinary-looking coin could quietly hold substantial historical and financial significance. The suspense lies in the fact that no two surviving coins age the same way, meaning every example carries its own combination of wear, strike quality, and preservation history. As grades climb higher and genuine mint errors become more dramatic, the numbers connected to the 1949 D Jefferson nickel rise sharply. Certain unusual finds featuring exceptional strike sharpness, rare die varieties, or strong full steps details have reportedly approached $18,000 in specialized collector sales where demand intensified between advanced buyers. High-grade examples with nearly flawless surfaces and brilliant luster have inspired auction results near $28,000, especially when certification confirmed outstanding preservation, uncommon for the series. Then there are the more dramatic error pieces, including bold doubling, severe off-center strikes, or major die damage, which have pushed toward $45,000 when their appearance proved visually striking enough to attract national attention. Collectors sometimes compare these discoveries to finding an old forgotten painting in an attic, because the transformation from ordinary object to prized collectible can happen instantly once the right expert examines it. The thought that such coins may still remain hidden in inherited collections or old bank rolls continues to motivate collectors who spend years searching through thousands of nickels, hoping for one extraordinary discovery. The most legendary stories surrounding the 1949 D nickel involve extreme mint state errors and rare misstrikes that few collectors ever encounter firsthand. Some authenticated examples display dramatic planchet flaws, broad strikes, or severe alignment problems so unusual that they almost appear counterfeit until examined professionally. When coins like these reach major auctions, competition can become intense because rarity alone is not enough. Collectors also seek visual impact and historical importance. Certain extreme mint state errors have reportedly reached values near $65,000, while rare misstrikes with remarkable preservation and undeniable authenticity have climbed toward $95,000 in elite collector markets. These numbers are not promises or guarantees, but documented examples of how far demand can escalate when a coin combines rarity, condition, and an unforgettable appearance. The emotional stories connected to these discoveries are often even more compelling than the values themselves, especially when people realize that life-changing coins have sometimes been found in old coffee cans, inherited dresser drawers, or forgotten coin envelopes stored for generations without anyone recognizing their importance. Careful examination remains essential because many altered or damaged nickels can resemble valuable varieties to inexperienced collectors, which is why professionals urge patience instead of impulsive selling. Weight should always be checked against standard specifications because unusual heaviness or lightness may indicate planchet abnormalities or post-mint alterations. The metal itself should appear natural rather than overly polished or artificially bright, since cleaning can erase important surface characteristics collectors value deeply. Strike alignment matters because authentic errors often reveal uneven spacing or shifted design placement, impossible to duplicate convincingly outside official minting equipment. Expanded rims, doubled letters, and unusual edge formations deserve especially close attention under magnification, particularly near the date and inscriptions where many known varieties appear strongest. Professional authentication services remain critical for determining whether a coin truly carries rare characteristics or merely resembles them superficially. Somewhere right now, another overlooked 1949 United States Jefferson nickel may still be sitting unnoticed among ordinary spare change, carrying a hidden combination of rarity and history capable of turning an almost forgotten object into one of the most talked-about discoveries a collector could ever imagine, with whispers of extraordinary examples reaching astonishing levels near $110,000 when uniqueness and preservation align perfectly. Last coin. The 1963 Jefferson nickel looked like the kind of coin nobody would ever stop to question, the sort of nickel tossed into soda machines, forgotten under car seats, or buried inside old kitchen drawers for decades without a second thought. Yet hidden behind its simple appearance is one of the most fascinating stories in modern American coin collecting. By 1963, the United States Mint was operating under increasing pressure as coin demand exploded across the country, and production facilities were working at intense speeds to keep circulation flowing smoothly through a rapidly growing economy. That urgency created subtle inconsistencies in striking quality, die preparation, and metal handling that would later capture the attention of advanced collectors searching for overlooked rarities. While millions of these nickels entered circulation unnoticed, a very small number emerged with unusual characteristics that transformed them from ordinary pocket change into mysterious artifacts carrying unexpected value. Some pieces developed remarkably sharp detail on Jefferson's portrait and Monticello, while others revealed strange distortions that hinted at hidden minting problems invisible to casual observers. The suspense surrounding the 1963 Jefferson nickel comes from the fact that many rare examples still blend perfectly into everyday collections, making it possible for extraordinary discoveries to remain hidden in plain sight for generations. Unlike earlier wartime nickels that attracted attention because of silver content, the 1963 issue gained collector interest through its striking inconsistencies and surprisingly elusive high-grade survivors. Coins from this period were often handled heavily from the moment they entered circulation, meaning truly pristine examples became far scarcer than many people realize today. The Philadelphia Mint produced enormous quantities, but quantity alone did not guarantee perfection, and specialists began noticing that some 1963 nickels displayed unusually weak strikes around Monticello's steps, while others carried bold, razor-sharp details rarely seen from the era. These full-steps examples became especially desirable because even tiny imperfections could eliminate the clean separation collectors wanted. The coin's visual personality also changed dramatically depending on storage conditions over the decades. Some surviving nickels developed soft champagne tunning, smoky gray textures, or icy blue highlights near the rim, while others maintained brilliant luster that still flashes under direct light like newly minted metal. Those differences may appear insignificant to someone outside the hobby. But seasoned collectors understand that visual originality often separates a common coin from one capable of commanding astonishing attention at auction. Part of the mystery surrounding the 1963 Jefferson nickel comes from the hidden minting anomalies that quietly slipped through quality control during production. Certain coins reveal subtle doubled lettering around the date or inscriptions, while others show faint die clashes where traces of opposite-side designs accidentally impressed into the dies themselves. A handful of pieces exhibit off-center strikes so slight that they escaped immediate detection for years, only becoming obvious under careful examination when spacing between the rim and lettering appears uneven. There are also examples with dramatic die cracks stretching through Jefferson's profile or across Monticello, creating strange raised lines that permanently recorded stress inside the minting equipment. Some collectors spend years searching rolls of old nickels, hoping to uncover these overlooked variations, because each anomaly tells a unique story from the moment the coin was created. The excitement comes from knowing that these imperfections were never intended to exist, yet they survived circulation and time, eventually becoming the exact features that made certain coins valuable decades later. The emotional side of the 1963 Jefferson Nickels story becomes even stronger when people realize how many potentially valuable examples were unknowingly spent or discarded long before collectors recognized their importance. Families have emptied inherited jars of change into counting machines without checking dates or minting details, never realizing a single overlooked nickel could have represented a dramatic financial surprise. Stories continue circulating about collectors discovering rare examples inside bank rolls, estate collections, or forgotten envelopes hidden inside old furniture. One reason these discoveries remain so captivating is because the coin itself still looks ordinary enough to escape attention. Even when a rare specimen sits beside common nickels, the differences may only become visible under magnification or proper lighting. The quiet disguise creates tension every time someone searches through spare change, because the possibility always exists that an extraordinary coin is hiding among completely ordinary pieces. The idea that life-changing discoveries can emerge from something so small and familiar is exactly what keeps collectors fascinated with the Jefferson Nickels series year after year. As collector demand increased, documented sales began revealing how dramatically values could rise depending on condition, rarity, and era characteristics. Minor doubled dies, unusual strike issues, or especially attractive mint-state examples have appeared in private transactions and auctions ranging from approximately $7,500 to $18,000, surprising many people who assumed all Jefferson Nickels carried minimal value. Coins featuring stronger visual abnormalities, including dramatic off-center strikes or major die damage, have reportedly climbed toward $25,000 when authenticated and preserved properly. The emotional impact becomes even more intense when collectors think about how easily such pieces could have vanished into circulation unnoticed decades ago. Some owners only discovered the significance of their coins after casually showing them to experienced dealers or sending them for professional grading. The suspense grows because condition alone can completely transform value, meaning two nickels from the same year may appear similar at first glance, while existing in entirely different worlds, financially once experts examine their surfaces and strike quality carefully. The most respected 1963 Jefferson Nickels are often the ones that combine extraordinary preservation with visual originality impossible to recreate artificially. High-grade examples displaying sharp full steps, untouched mint luster, and nearly flawless surfaces have reached remarkable auction levels near $40,000 when competition between advanced collectors intensified. Strong mint-state errors featuring broad strikes, rotated dies, or dramatic planchet abnormalities have reportedly approached $55,000 in specialized sales where rarity and eye appeal aligned perfectly. Some rare misstrikes displaying severe alignment issues or unforgettable visual distortions have climbed toward $80,000 because collectors value pieces that immediately stand apart from ordinary examples. These documented results are not guarantees of future value, but reflections of what passionate buyers have been willing to pay for coins considered truly exceptional within the Jefferson Nickels series. The idea that a coin originally worth only 5 cents could later command the price of a luxury vehicle or major investment property continues to fuel fascination across the collecting world. At the highest levels of the hobby, the 1963 Jefferson Nickel enters an entirely different category where extreme rarity and historical uniqueness dominate conversations among elite collectors. Certain extraordinary coins, with nearly impossible combinations of preservation and minting errors, have reportedly achieved values approaching $120,000 during private sales and major auctions. These are the kinds of nickels that experts discuss for years because they possess characteristics so unusual that few comparable examples exist anywhere. One-of-a-kind pieces involving dramatic multi-era combinations, exceptional strike sharpness, or unmatched mint-state preservation have even been associated with astonishing figures near $150,000 when collector demand reached its peak. Stories connected to these discoveries often sound almost unbelievable, involving forgotten coin albums, inherited collections, or accidental finds hidden in ordinary household containers for decades. What makes these stories emotionally powerful is the realization that opportunities like this were sometimes missed completely, with valuable coins unknowingly spent long before anyone recognized the remarkable secret they carried. Anyone examining a 1963 Jefferson nickel today should approach the process carefully and responsibly because authentic rarities require proper evaluation before any conclusions are made. Weight should be checked precisely since unusual planchet errors can create small but important differences from standard specifications. The metal color deserves close attention as well, because original surfaces often reveal natural agging patterns impossible to duplicate convincingly through artificial cleaning or alteration. Strike alignment should appear balanced unless a genuine misstrike occurred during production, while the rim may show expansion, distortion, or uneven pressure if the coin experienced abnormal striking conditions. Letter doubling near the date or inscriptions can sometimes indicate valuable die varieties, though many forms of damage can imitate those effects superficially. Professional authentication remains essential because experienced grading specialists can distinguish between true mint-created anomalies and ordinary wear or post-mint damage. The 1963 Jefferson nickel continues to remind collectors that hidden treasures still exist in the most ordinary places imaginable. And as this video comes to an end, remember to subscribe and stay alert, because the next forgotten coin waiting inside an old jar, dusty drawer, or handful of spare change may carry an even more shocking story than anyone expects.